Well, two Wisconsin teenagers will stand trial as adults for the brutal stabbing of a classmate. A judge upholding a doctor's findings that the girls are competent to stand trial despite challenges from their defense attorneys. The girls, who were 12 years old at the time of this attack, well, they're accused of attempted murder in the savage stabbing of another girl, a friend of theirs, who was also only 12 years old. Thankfully, the victim survived. Prosecutors say that the two girls were trying to please the fictional character online known as Slender Man. So why does this happen? Fred TC is a former federal prosecutor, Rebecca LeGrand, a criminal defense attorney. Rebecca, they're 12 years old. Do you think it's fair to try them as adults?
I don't. And I don't think they will be tried as adults. They still have a chance to prove that they ought to be tried as juveniles. So what happened yesterday is that the court decided they were competent to stand trial. But that's a low bar. And they still have a chance to try and get back into juvenile court. And I think that will be appropriate.
Attorney Rebecca, how would you defend this?
Well, I think my first job here would be to try and get this into juvenile court. In juvenile court, they still face serving incarceration until they're 25, but that's much less serious than what they're facing as adults. So what I'd have to convince a court first is that juvenile court is the right place for them and that there's no need for them to be treated in the adult system. And then after that, it's hard after that because they've admitted to what happened here. So defending them on the merits is challenging here, but the proper punishment is.
What do you think is going to happen?
When is this going to happen? I think the next hearings. Oh, what's going to happen?
Well, No, Rebecca, go ahead.
So the next step will be what's called a reverse waiver hearing, where the defense argues that they should be returned to juvenile court because they can be best treated in the juvenile system and because that will properly reflect the severity of the crime. And arguing that here will be tricky because the crime is so severe, but that will be the next step and that will be a big deal here.
Meanwhile, there's another story we've been following, that of the former Detroit area businessman who now will be likely spending the rest of his life in prison. He is Robert Bashar. He was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy in the murder-for-hire killing of his wife, Jane. The jury did find him guilty on all 5 counts, including solicitation, witness intimidation, and man, oh man, this case involved, bondage and discipline and sadomasochism and all this horrible stuff that this guy allegedly did. So, Rebecca, what happens to people who, you hear about these cases all the time, where they go out and try to get a hitman and they, pay them money and try to kill their spouse?
Well, often they end up convicted of murder, which is what happened here. But, I would argue that the facts here were not that overwhelming. What you had was an overwhelming amount of creepy, disturbing testimony about Mr. Bashir's personal life and S&M. Yeah, and, those are hard facts as a defense attorney to overcome. But honestly, they're more prejudicial than probative, as we say, in my mind. The fact that he was into creepy, kinky stuff doesn't necessarily mean he's a murderer. And, it's real hard to defend a case when you've got that going on, though.
All right, Fred and Rebecca will be following what happens with these two cases as they go forward. Thank you so much.